And this is Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Min. In this bulletin, as major oil giants announce shift from fossil fuel to clean energy, the Energy Commission says the country is racing to extract all its oil reserves by 2050.
More for movement from black to green. It's something that on low carbon emission, fuels. It's something that Ghana is very focused on. The president made Ghana's position known.
This comes as President Akufo-Addo describes as unfair, calls for developing nations to abandon their recently discovered natural resources to address the dangers of climate change.
Almighty has blessed our lands with abundant natural resources, and we believe it would be wholly unfair for the world to demand that Africa abandons the exploitation of these same resources.
We explore how Ghana can navigate the development tightrope. Also here on Joy News Prime, Joy News and Corruption Watch investigation uncovered the illegal collection of fees as high as 750 Ghana cedis for blood by a syndicate operating within the National Blood Service and the Greater Accra Regional Blood Bank.
In Ghana, there is high blood scarcity as the blood banks are not able to collect enough to meet the demand. For patients in dire need of blood transfusion, they either have to pay exorbitant fees charged by some hospitals.
We'll hear from patients sharing stories of agony following this illegal practice, as well as the National Blood Service, which is asking patients to demand receipts and report miscreants.
No, also yes surgery. Na also moja for in case of any eventuality. That was say 250.
Minority in Parliament demands immediate suspension of what they describe as clandestine hikes in electricity tariffs.
What the minority is calling on the PURC to do is to, with immediate effect, suspend these price hikes.
And coming up in business, Ghana Revenue Authority steps up revenue measures as it announces plans to pilot e-commerce, gaming and bet taxes in April 2022.
The platform is ready. By 1st of April, we'll start the pilot. The pilot will be, so the same platform will be used for e-commerce. It will be used for gaming and betting, and shall also be used for the VAT or VAT.
We are live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV 144. This is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Stay tuned in for details. Hello again, thanks for choosing us. Now, Ghana is in a race to ensure all her oil is drilled before 2050. This because major oil giants are shifting from the production of fossil fuel to renewable energy. BP, Shell, ExxonMobil, Total, and others have all announced separate dates to reduce the production of fossil fuel and further not explore any in any country between now and the next 25 years. The implication of this is that there will be a lack of capital to invest in oil fields. Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, Egbert Fable, tells Joy News' presidential correspondent Elton Brobe Ghana is aware of the development and is working to extract all its reserves. He spoke to him on the sidelines of an ongoing international conference on energy in Guyana.
The clamor for clean energy, the clamor for movement from black to green, it's something that on low carbon emission, fuels. It's something that Ghana is very focused on. The president made Ghana's position known during the last meeting in COP26 in Scotland. And so that is the blueprint Ghana has. The Petroleum Commission stands on what the president said, and we are going to keep the focus. I know that the Ministry of Energy, for instance, has already taken the lead and is organizing a kind of nationwide tour to pick views from all facets of society and really synthesize them so that the final blueprint, I should say, will be rolled out.
Now, this revelation comes on the back of comments by President Akufo-Addo describing as unfair calls for developing nations to abandon their recently discovered natural resources to address the dangers of climate change.
For the sake of our generation and that of generations yet unborn, we have a solemn duty to take immediate, bold, and concrete steps to protect global climate from warming beyond unbearable limits. We know it is in our own interest to act to salvage the economic fortunes of the continent, and more so, step our collective efforts to fight decisively climate change. We have till 2030 to stop climate change, and this requires us to deal with climate change more aggressively than we have in the past. However, we're faced with a conundrum. The African Development Bank has stated that Africa will need some $3 trillion United States dollars in mitigation and adaptation by 2030 to enable us implement our nationally determined contributions. The obvious question arises as to how do we finance these commitments, especially as our socioeconomic development continues, unfortunately, to be low. The Almighty has blessed our lands with abundant natural resources, and we believe it will be wholly unfair for the world to demand that Africa abandons the exploitation of these same resources needed to finance her development and help us to cope better with the threat of climate change.
But what is really at stake, and why should developing countries bear the brunt of this global environmental devastation? My colleague Kofi J of our researchers joins me in the studio with some information on this. Kofi, let's start with how much Ghana is getting from its oil discovery, for instance.
All right, so Ernest, let's start with gold, actually.
Okay,
so
let's start with gold.
Some digging on, total exports from, from gold, and this is in billion USD. So in 2016, the cumulative, revenue or exports amount we got from export from gold was around 4.92 billion cedis
in 2016,
and this rose to 5.79 billion cedis in 2017. Then a slight, a marginal decline to 5.44 billion, dollars in 2018. It climbed up again to 6.23 billion USD in 2019, and in 2020, 6.79 billion USD. Now, we as of May 2021,
we dropped.
Yeah, that's just like 4 months. So it's fair enough that the figure drops to 1.8 1 billion cedis. So the next slide.
Okay. So this is for gold. The next slide we'll look at oil.
So oil. The next slide talks about crude oil. So in 2016, we started off with 1.35 billion US dollars. A significant increase to 3.02 billion USD in 2017. And fast forward to 2020, when COVID struck, we were doing 2.91 billion cedis. That was a drop from 4.49 billion cedis in 2019 to 2.9, almost like half of what we were doing in 2019.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, actually. And in 2021, as of May, we are done 1.15 billion cedis as of May. Now, if you combine the two, that is crude oil and gold, how much you are getting from the period under review. 2016, we got in total 6.29 billion cedis from export. In 2017, 8.1 billion US dollars. In 2018, it rose to 10.01 billion USD, and in 2019 to 10.27 billion USD in 2019. Now, there was a decline. Exactly, probably because of COVID,
yeah.
To 9.1 billion USD in 2019. And as of last year, May,
a further decline.
Because we are looking at just 4 months in the year of 2021, which is 2.96 billion US dollars. These figures are from the Bank of Ghana's, summary data on the countries.
Okay, so we've seen how much you're making from oil and from gold.
Exactly.
Now, this call is coming as a result of the emissions that we know is bordering on climate change. Various countries, various continents we know have contributed significantly to this. Yeah. I know Africa's contribution is very little, but I want you to put the figures to it. So help us understand.
So let's go to the touch screen, the smart wall. And here we have, this is the global picture, the global outlook. We are talking about carbon dioxide emissions, you know, in kilotons. So the deeper the blue, the higher the emission rate.
Okay.
So if you look at areas in Africa, countries in Africa, you see that the blue is very light, meaning we are emitting less. If you actually do the math, you realize Africa is emitting less than, you know, 3% of the global total. And then countries like, places like the Northern America, Europe, and then Asia, they are doing more than 20%, you know, emissions. So let's look at a country like Ghana. We are emitting, this according to the World Bank data, 16,110, you know, kilotons of carbon dioxide emission every year. And then places like, you know, the United States is doing 4,981,300, you know, kilotons of
Can we look at
carbon
China?
dioxide emissions. So China will be somewhere, yeah, that's China. 10.3 million, you know, 10.3 million in a year. That's the carbon dioxide emission China is actually emitting.
And I guess that will be Canada also.
Yeah, we have Canada. Okay. So Canada is doing, you know, 574,000 a year. And we have United States, which we've spoken about already. But let's look at Russia. Russia is emitting 1.6 million, you know, kilotons of carbon dioxide emission in a year. So
Kofi, thank you very much for bringing us those details, putting the figures to the conversation we are having today on Joy News Prime. Let's go to Zoom now and speak to Bernard Kumada, Deputy Programs Manager, Center for Science and Environment in India. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Joy News Prime. You have seen that Africa and many developing countries contribute less to this global challenge. How justified is the call for a restraint in the exploring of its natural resources?
Thank you. Thank you, Ernest, for inviting me. Before I jump to these specific questions, it's very important for the listeners to understand the very concept of energy transitions that currently it's a buzzword everywhere. Everyone is talking about, including the investment community. There is a need of decarbonizations globally. These countries are coming up, wanting to reduce their emissions, and thus have committed the NDCs, National Determined Contributions, under the UNFCCC framework. As the countries commits to decarbonize to reduce the emission intensity, their huge focus on energy, as it is plays an important role, which contributes to more than 70% of the emissions.
Okay.
So that is under fire. And that is the crux of everything, why we take about energy transition globally, and particularly in Western Africa, like countries like Ghana. And in terms of what we see inherent in this region is energy transitions. It's interesting. We are seeing a movement where the decarbonizations part of course, is materializing, but what we seeing here is slightly different in other parts of the world, as you have mentioned in the smart screen by your colleague. So the country in this region are mostly dependent on the liquid fuels and less on the coals. So what we are observing, some of the interesting movement that we see in the renewables that are going to start in this transition phase here, particularly in the region. What we can expect is that an interesting play interesting play on decentralized renewable energy, as it can help it can help to easily penetrate into the communities. That one can key opportunity we can see, and or we can expect the change in the entire dynamic of renewable energy. So one another point that I want to highlight, the grid is not geared up. The conventional grid is not that geared up for taking or incorporating all the renewable target that has been there in the target of global target. So DRE mini grid and its distributed hub models can help the communities to get rid of the energy access issues on a large scale, and with the reliable and affordable electricity.
Great. Ben, kindly hold it for me. We're joined by Leslie Dwight-Mensah, who is an economist and a research fellow at the Institute for Fiscal Studies. Thank you very much, Mr. Mensah. We have committed at various levels as a country to contribute towards finding a global solution to the myriad of problems related to climate change. We have a document even to that effect. Why should we pick and choose which one to support?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I think we have to be wary of people and institutions that champion solutions to the climate change problem as if these are solutions without costs. Therefore, I completely agree with the President's characterization of the suggestion that developing countries, including Ghana, should limit or cease, the exploitation of their hydrocarbon resources as unfair. Indeed, I can afford to be less diplomatic and characterize it as absurd. And this is because, as an economist, I weigh cost versus benefits. Imagine this: if we all stopped driving, or cooking, or using electricity, that would immediately begin a dramatic reversal of the warming of the planet. But nobody offers a solution. Why? Because it's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Because the cost substantially outweighs the benefits. And it is this cost-benefit evaluation that should be applied to the various proposals to combat climate change. And in the case of Ghana, for example, if we were to proceed, on this path of slowing down or curtailing or completely ceasing the exploitation of our hydrocarbon resources, what would be the benefit to Ghana and to the planet? The benefits would be infinitesimal because our contribution to the climate crisis is infinitesimal. On the other hand, what would be the cost? We depend on these natural resources for our development, for our economic growth, for public revenue mobilization, for jobs. And indeed, we need to develop our energy resources to power and propel our industrialization. This is exactly what the developed countries did in their quest for the prosperity they enjoy today. The United States, most people will not know this, is the world's biggest oil producer as we speak today. The United States produces more than 11 million barrels of oil a day. The Chinese produce about 4 million barrels of oil a day. The UK produces close to 1 million barrels of oil a day from its North Sea. Why should they not curtail or cease the exploitation of our natural resources?
But Mr. Mensah, the United States you talk about, for instance, has promised to increase its donation to addressing issues of climate change and, in fact, compensating, I beg your pardon, developing countries who may be affected by the measures that will be rolled out. Is that not a sign that there's some issue there, a genuine issue that needs to be addressed?
Well, the big polluters have the greatest responsibility to deal with this supposed crisis, okay? Who has determined that the promised compensation is proportionate to the opportunity cost of abandoning the exploitation of our natural resources? I mean, I would be open to considering a bargain that offers to compensate developing countries proportionately for the entirety of the opportunity costs involved in pursuing this path of curtailing or limiting the exploitation of our natural resources. The compensation has to be proportionate. We could do with the billions of dollars if those that are championing this path are ready to pay up. Otherwise, in fact, at the Institute for Fiscal Studies, we have called on the government of Ghana, to expand its investment in the natural resources sector, because we believe the state has to increase its presence in the sector, expand its stake, and through that be able to capture directly more of the benefits for the Ghanaian exchequer.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Mensah, on how we can walk this tightrope, considering that we have major companies, for instance, in the oil and gas sector, planning to exit. But let me speak now to Suleiman Yusuf, who is the Director of Research, Center for Climate Change and Food Security. Thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. Can we find a middle ground in this development?
Thank you very much, and a very good evening to your listeners and my colleagues. Finding a middle ground has always been a problem, because if you trace the trajectory or the history behind these conversations or climate change conferences, starting all the way from Stockholm, which was Stockholm in Sweden, as far back as 1972. You will see that every turn of events, the promises that are made, the pledges that are made are never met. And so it becomes very difficult for me to say that it is easier, or for anybody at all to say it is easier to find a middle ground. You see, the danger in all of this climate change issue is what I see in what we call the climate change politics, what we call the prisoner's dilemma, which simply says that if any country were to consider themselves as more important than the other countries or protect only their interest, where everybody is acting rationally to protect their interests, then the entire earth will be at danger. Now, your colleague rightly gave the statistics about contributions of various continents to the phenomenon of global warming or climate change.
Yeah.
But what you should have done was also to match the contributions side by side with the vulnerabilities. Then you would get the picture that the developing countries should be diplomatic and not talk tough like we are seeing happening, because at the end of the day, even though the rich countries are contributing more than the developing countries, the vulnerabilities, or if you like, the effects of climate change is much felt by the weaker countries than those who contribute more. So, I mean, as a logical consequence, you would say polluter pay, the one who pollutes more should pay more. And that is what the climate change accords have been trying to do over the years. And that is why when you look at the individual countries' financial contributions to the financing of climate change, you realize that the developed countries are impressed upon to pay more. And so, for example, a figure of $100 billion was agreed as far back as the Paris Accord. We have not been able to achieve that. So yes, there is an attempt to have a proportionate contribution to the entire climate change financing regime. But you see, when you match, if you want to talk tough and say that developing countries should not concede or should not yield, you would also be endangering these developing countries, because they are the worst hits when climate change becomes very severe.
Exactly.
My next, I think that this conversation should be placed properly in a proper perspective, because I have not heard any country saying that developing countries should abandon the extraction of their resources. What I've heard is that when you look at the COP26, what happened was that the last minute move by China and India to make sure that coal does not become a central issue in the whole deal that was struck at the COP26. So nobody is saying that developing countries should not exploit their resources. What is happening is that developing countries are at the risk of not benefiting from their resources, because most of the countries are gradually transitioning to green energy. And when that happens, since we do not have the market to consume what we extract even by ourselves, it means that whatever we extract, we will not be able to consume it and will not be able to sell it.
That is so. And there's actually been some calls for restraint as well. But I'll return to you for your comments to wrap up. Let me go to Bennett and put the question of how do we go around this? You have the developing countries, contributing more to carbon emissions. Africa, the developing countries bearing the brunt of their actions, and yet we are not seeing a commitment by them to compensate. Neither are we hearing a commitment by them to reduce the emissions. How do we solve this?
It's very difficult for the developing countries to visualize this kind of commitment, specifically in terms of the phasing out the coal, as mentioned by Suleimana. So in COP26, we have seen there was a pressure from international organizations, and the people were saying that country like India and we need to decarbonize by phase out the coal and all. So it's very difficult. Currently, we are studying a lot on these issues. So we have not concluded. We'll see how soon we can come up with these stories.
Thank you very much for joining us. Let me take your final comments, Mr. Mensah. You are encouraging government to go all out to explore the natural resources, but we have a danger which is quite imminent We are bearing the brunt of climate change, even though we are not contributing to it as much as the West is. How should government go about this in order to protect us, even as we seek to maximize our resources?
Well, what I would say is exactly what I said at the beginning, that we should be aware of solutions that are framed as if they come without substantial costs. At each point, we have to weigh the cost vis-a-vis the benefits of a proposed solution, okay, and make the appropriate decision. So that's my advice, generally.
Thank you very much. That's Leslie Duart-Mensah with the IFS. Let me take final words from you, Suleiman Yusuf. The president has made clear statements. He says the interest of the people of Africa will be paramount in making these decisions. Do you think that this is necessarily an agenda by the West to keep us down the ladder when it comes to development?
First of all, as I mentioned, I have not seen anybody saying don't exploit your resources. In the first place, as I mentioned, the West is already moving to green energy. So you should be looking at how to diversify your economy and how to maximize the natural resources that you have in the interim, because in future, these natural resources become useless. So it's not about talking tough, it's about looking at the realities on the ground. If you talk about the interests of your country first, don't forget that when climate change hits, it is you, the weaker countries, who do not contribute much to climate change, that suffers.
Thank you very much. That's Suleiman Yusuf. He's with the Center for Climate Change, joining us on this conversation on how Africa, especially Ghana, how we can harness our resources even in the face of climate change and its challenges. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, and that's still to come, Joy News and Corruption Watch investigation uncovered the illegal collection of fees as high as 750 cedis for blood by a syndicate operating within the National Blood Service and the Greater Accra Regional Blood Bank.
In Ghana, there is high blood scarcity as the blood banks are not able to collect enough to meet the demand. For patients in dire need of blood transfusion, they either have to pay exorbitant fees charged by some hospitals.
We'll hear from patients sharing stories of agony following this illegal practice, as well as the National Blood Service, which is asking patients to demand receipts and report miscreants.
Also, yes, surgery. Also, moja for in case of any eventuality. Now, I say 250.
We have details of these, plus the latest in business and sports here on Joy News Prime. Please stay with us.
It's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. The GRA has announced that it is preparing to pilot an electronic commerce, gaming and bet taxes in April 2022. The GRA Commissioner General Amisha Dawosu Amwa, who announced this, said the introduction of these taxes coupled with digitalization initiatives and e-levy will complement efforts in achieving the 80.3 billion Ghana City revenue target for 2022. He was speaking at the opening ceremony of the GRA 2022 Management Retreat at the Volta Serene Hotel in Ho.
Platform is ready. By 1st of April, we'll start the pilot. The pilot will be the same platform, will be used for e-commerce. It will be used for gaming and betting, and shall also be used for the VAT or VAT. And then it will ensure that all these players are taking part. And from 1st April, we'll start the pilot test with a number of identified players in this area. And then by June, we'll go complete the whole country. There are a lot of ways of handling it. For example, before you operate in Ghana, you know there's a gateway that comes to the country, and then the National Communication Authority has a way of handling it. And therefore, if your trains have not registered with us, and we block you from being able to originate a transaction from Ghana, it's up to you as the international, global multinational to decide whether you want transactions to emanate from Ghana or not.
Well, still staying with the GRA 2022 management retreat, and the Deputy Finance Minister, Abnol Sari, has asserted that Ghanaians have accepted the introduction of the e-levy but are requesting for a transparent accountability and judicious use of revenue that would be generated. She promised that stakeholders, including Parliament, Finance Ministry and Auditor General's Department, will ensure there is transparency and accountability on the expenditure of every penny accrued through the e-levy platform.
For me, what I hear Ghanaians say about the e-levy is that, yes, we want to embrace it, we want it, it's good, but we want to see more accountability in that field. That the monies that you raise, let us see, one, show us how much came in, and then also tell us what you utilize the revenues that came in for. So it's all more about transparency and accountability. And luckily for us, Parliament has an oversight responsibility in the discharge of our financing. And also the Auditor General also does its bit, as well as the Ministry of Finance also does what is due, some form of oversight in the collection of these revenues. So we are in safe hands, and Parliament, the Ministry and the Auditor General should all collaborate and make sure that truly we see the transparency and accountability that all Ghanaians are hoping that will come with the collection of the e-levy. So I must say that, yes, Ghanaians want it, but all they are asking that they want to see more transparency and accountability in the collections and the utilization of the electronic transaction levy.
Away from that, the National Insurance Commission has been urged to create a special purpose vehicle to protect indigents from going down as a result of failure to meet the new minimum capital requirement. Even though the deadline for meeting the new level is long overdue, sources reveal that some indigenous insurance companies were not able to raise the stated capital, hence the probability of them ceasing operations. But speaking at the investiture of the new governing council of the Ghana Insurance Association, the executive chairman of Glyco Group, Dr. Kwame Achamponche, made an appeal to the NIC to absorb struggling companies to protect policyholders.
If the affected indigenous companies are acquired by foreign companies, we could have a case of the Ghanaian insurance landscape being dominated by foreign companies, with the attendant consequences of capital flight and profit repatriation, which could seriously affect the Ghana economy. I therefore wish to appeal to you to, instead of giving ultimatum to companies affected by the minimum capital requirement to recapitalize or have their licenses revoked, collaborate with GIA to lobby government to establish a special purpose investment vehicle to support indigenous insurance companies to recapitalize and remain in business, just as was done for some of the indigenous banks a few years ago.
Meanwhile, newly elected president of the Ghana Insurance Association, Seth Aklasi, says the organization is poised to suspend members engaged in unethical practices such as premium undercutting.
People who basically will not follow the things that we want to do, especially with respect to minimum premiums. One of the things that I think is going to help this new board is that IFRS 17 actually makes it imperative that everybody who is in business, the nature of that accounting standard and how we're going to report our results now will make sure that you need to be writing and charging adequate premiums. Otherwise, in a very short time, you would go out of business. Part of those awareness creation is that we need to educate the people that it's not only on prices. They should be worried that the people who take the least prices are not creating a healthy pool, and they are at danger of losing their minimum capital and going under.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the Joy News Prime with me, Oreku Ampofo. Communications Director of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Mohammed Amin Lamte, sees nothing wrong with ignoring the constitution of the boxing regulatory body in decision-making. Now, he has justified President Abraham Nikwe's recent increase of license fees without going to Congress, as stipulated in Article 3.6 of the GBA's Constitution. Amin Lamte was speaking earlier today on Sports Today.
Whether you have to go to Congress and increase what people pay for their license, or if they want to, if they have their license expired, they want to renew their license, it all depends on the GBA. Whether we have gone to Congress to determine it for members to agree on the price or not, that is not an issue.
It is an issue.
The issue, yes.
It is an issue. The Ghana Boxing Authority operates with a constitutional document, just like every other association.
A question,
yes.
Allow me.
Yes, no worry. Don't worry. We need to correct you before we go forward. There it is. This is the Constitution. It is there. Now, and I'll go over it again. Article 3.6. Article 3.6 under eligibility says, a register of all members shall be kept at the headquarters and secretariat of the authority, and each member shall renew its membership annually upon approval of a fee set by Congress. This is in the rules. This is the Constitution of the Ghana Boxing Authority.
Okay, so if it is said that the Congress should increase the fees, and then there was an increment that did not go to the Congress, what must a stakeholder do? And that stakeholder who was even on top of the, on top of the issue talking about it, ask whether that person is a qualified stakeholder. And somebody who has been as a stakeholder for more than 4 years, he or she has not renewed his license. And when there is
we need to stick to the issues here. I mean,
why don't you allow me to flow?
No problems. But we need to stick to the issues. I mean, it's a very simple thing. I'm asking that, just like every other association, the Football Association has a constitution. The Ghana Boxing Authority has a constitution. The Ghana Bar Association...
So your problem is because we've not sent it to the Congress, so it's not workable. Is that what you are saying?
And I'm saying that by rules and regulations.
Yes, we have
and what has been done based on, because you see, yesterday, can we hold on a bit?
Right.
Can we hold on a bit? You are a media practitioner of many years. Mm-hmm. I am a media practitioner. We're the same set of people who go down and condemn and also criticize people in leadership, in sports administration, who go against the rules and the regulations.
This criticism is a non-starter.
Wait, we cannot be seen. I mean, we cannot be seen condoning what is wrong, because yesterday we heard words like illegality.
What is wrong?
Okay,
there is nothing wrong with the increment. You may sit here and say that he needs to go through the Congress for Congress to approve before it is what?
Okay, so
before it is applicable, right?
Okay.
And I'm telling you that.
Do remember that.
Allow me to communicate.
You communicate, but do remember that everything you're saying here is on public record. You are saying that going against the Constitution of the same body that binds you and I and everybody else is,
my brother,
not wrong.
Look, I understand the Constitution more than anything. And let me tell you, I am also somebody who is into legal issues. I lecture media law, and I know where you are coming from.
As a lecturer of media law,
allow me to talk.
I mean, as a lecturer of media law, you are telling me that it is right to go against the Constitution?
There is nothing wrong with that. Even if the GBA has done that, there are procedure that you have to knock the doors of the GBA and seek for clarification.
Very well.
Because listen, yes, we have a Constitution guiding us, but look, there are certain issues that would rise that sometimes you don't need to organize any Congress. You must take a decision.
Is that written in the Constitution?
It's all about written in the Constitution. That is leadership. Are you telling me that the President of the Republic, what the Constitution says and other things that their party Constitution says, certain things will come urgently? So you have to organize and mobilize people and go to Congress before you pass any. Look, the increment of this particular money people need to pay, it is something that is negotiable. It is negotiable. So why must this only this thing?
It is not negotiable because based on
who told you it's not negotiable?
It is not negotiable based on what has happened in the past.
Now ask him, what was the last time he renewed his license?
Very well. When he
2017.
Hold on. When he made an attempt to pay, money was returned to him.
He never. How much did he pay? Ask him.
Well, he's here.
Now let me explain to you. Let me explain to you. Now you've got the issue. Now listen. This is somebody who is well known as a promoter. A promoter that is well known. When the GBA president came into office, when they were going to do refurbishment and other things, he was the one who came to the office, wanted to stop it. This is the man who has been chasing the GBA president left, right, and center on issues. And sometimes you raise issues about law, and when you go and check the constitution.
Well, interesting times ahead for the GBA and then boxing promoters. But we'll bring you up to date on this developing story. But before we go, just a reminder that the second cohort of Champions League round of 16 games are just about kicking off, with Liverpool traveling to face Inter Milan as Salzburg host Bayern Munich. I will bring you updates in the next hour when I do bring you the second part of the sports segment.
It's now time for the latest in the world of showbiz, and Becky is here. She has the very latest. Hello, Becky.
Hello to you, Ernest. How you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm fantastic. Let's talk about Ambule, because he's been...
Jeduble
Ambule. The man who discovered rap music here in Ghana, the first person. He is saying that his generation has, you know, failed the industry because of few things that they haven't really done themselves to put the industry on the right course.
Okay.
Today we're having a conversation about growing the industry, making the industry better, but he believes that his generation failed the industry and something needs to be done ASAP.
The older musicians are dying. When somebody is sick, it's not that they're going to go for performances to solicit money and think, come on. So there's nothing that is there. Now the building is taken out of them. They say they're going to give them another place. And those that are struggling to go there, I don't see how they're going to make the place because they don't have the information. They don't have that educational side of it. And they don't have the money to be able to establish something that needs to be established. But all these, the faults to all these are coming from we elders. We, the elder musicians, have made all these things to happen because we're supposed to teach the children and show the children the way. But the elders, Ambache the day is here, Abel Cancer working here, Pat Thomas is there, Ambule is there, and no, we sit, so when we sit down, we think, and we want to go to see the president. When the president hears the names that do it, he open the door. But the senior ones, they have failed the younger generation.
About the Bullfruits.
No, this one is about the industry.
About the...
But let's stay on the music industry.
Okay.
And another veteran musician is saying that the industry, we don't get support in the industry because people think that the industry is a joke. I come around.
In 2022.
We make people laugh, and they think that it's a joke. And also, he blamed the attitude of some people in the industry. Reason why no one wants to invest in the industry.
It's stuck for a long time. It's not a new thing. Because, you see, there's no culture. Then again, it comes back to culture. There's no culture of investing in the arts in Ghana. Not just music. Something visceral in our minds makes us feel the arts, they say, is nothing to be taken seriously. You understand what I mean? So our whole attitude towards it itself is a problem. You even could have an interaction, or you could have disrespect from people, industry people, radio stations, TV stations, disrespecting artists in a way that is very appalling.
But I think that people do appreciate the creatives now.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Much better.
There's small room for improvements, basically. That's what he's saying. Let's end with Rihanna. You know, she's pregnant, and we're all waiting for a little Rihanna or little A$AP Rocky.
Okay, like we all.
Everybody is looking forward to, you know, seeing that baby. So she's been talking to ET Entertainment tonight, and she has revealed that the baby won't stop her from making new music.
Okay.
You know that she hasn't released any music for a very long time.
Yeah.
So this is her confirming that hopefully we might have, you know, a song.
A Joy News and Corruption Watch investigation have uncovered the illegal collection of fees for blood by a syndicate operating with the National Blood Service at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital and the Greater Accra Regional Blood Bank. Now, at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, a staff collected 300 Ghana cedis for a pint of blood, while the leader of the syndicate operating within the National Blood Bank at Kolebu Teaching Hospital demanded 750 Ghana cedis Chief Executive of the National Blood Service, Dr. Justine Ansah, says no patient is expected to pay more than 150 Ghana cedis for the processing of blood. John News's investigative desk and corruption watchers Francisca Enchel investigates the distressing experience many patients go through as a result of this illegal practice.
In Ghana, there is high blood scarcity as the blood banks are not able to collect enough to meet the demand. For patients in dire need of blood transfusion, they either have to pay exorbitant fees charged by some hospitals or go through middlemen who facilitate the illegal purchase of blood at the hospitals. This lady, who pleaded anonymity, said she's been asked to pay 250 Ghana cedis for a pint of blood. Cost is therefore a barrier to patients who need blood to survive.
Surgery. Also for in case of any eventuality. But na moja ni ho. Nti me bianso amana anye na emergency. Nti enye obi amana enyi moja no. Nti na o say yeto 250.
That is the plight of some relatives of patients who are desperately in need for blood for their families on admission to the hospital. Unfortunately, the fees charged for blood has left them distraught. This middle-aged woman says blood bank operators she contracted demanded 400 Ghana cedis for a pint.
Hospitals are here. You pay rich in sky is 150 million. Ojankwa 8 in a mochromae. And I nya 6 months say aka 2. Minister me be toso ta be twimie no mo si ani ni dia na mfa nti en kopa bi obontimla nti abonti na enya no ba ku bia 4 million.
The National Blood Service says blood is not supposed to be sold. However, one is required to pay a processing fee to run laboratory tests on blood requested for transfusion. The service says the cost of processing this blood should not exceed 150 Ghana cedis. Chief Executive Officer of the National Blood Service, Dr. Justine Ansah, reveals the shortage of voluntary blood donations is the reason for the abuse of the system by unscrupulous individuals.
Because of the scarcity and artificial shortage that is created, people who want to make take advantage of the system because there's always shortage. Also, so there will be somebody who pays the processing fee, group and cross margin to the bank, giving a receipt. But around the person, they may also have gotten somebody to come and donate for them, and then would have paid some money. So these are some of, but to be able to curb that, I will repeat that we need to make sure that blood is an essential commodity. We have it in excess.
And you can find the full documentary on our YouTube channel as well as myjoyonline.com. Now, 35 wooden structures at Dakuman Black Park have been razed to the ground after a fire outbreak started by burning refuse sent smoke puffing through the neighborhood Wednesday afternoon. Motorcycles, tricycles and other personal belongings have all been lost to the fire. Speaking to Joy News, some victims of the devastating incident who were hopelessly going through the rubble recounted their losses and appealed to authorities to come through to help them with relief items.
Some 175 people are counting their losses here at Dakuman Black Park. Motorcycles, tricycles, their shelter, everything they've worked for the past years have all been razed down. So they are showing us evidence of a bundle of cash that has been burnt. So these are just the remnants of some of the monies that have been burnt.
The rooms was 35. The fire started at our rooms back.
You were burning some refuse there?
They are burning boiler. They are burning boilers there. And for me there, I and my husband, we didn't take anything. All our money, our things, we didn't take anything from there. All our things are burned.
Oh, nema bebre di ashe. Nema di ase papa. O hwe stores egu na anye nema kito na gum.
There were about 35 kiosks in this space, and in each one of them you have about 6 to 7 people occupying it, and now all of that is gone. I cannot tell you how much cash has been lost to the fire, because over here we have traders, people who deal in tricycles and motorbicycles, and normally we keep our monies at home. We don't save at the bank. So you can imagine how much money has been burned through this fire. What is left for me is the clothes that I have on me right now. Apart from this, I do not have anything. I wasn't able to salvage anything from the fire.
3 days be 1 million. And I need 80. And I say, Nananka, Eba, no, my union mamma. Tea, many way crown a car, I say, now can you pay back before? Tea, your house, Anna, or mother phrase, say, Jashi, Meroshi Banj, say, Bibiashi, me so my fashion or my fashion, the Namisha, me P. I'm discussing an hour, did uncle 79 million. And I can pay back for 100 cities, but Bananka 8,000 in
Now, some residents of Choko in the Ablekima South District here in Accra have vowed to take on anyone who dumps rubbish in drains in the community. They were on Wednesday forced by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Sanitation Task Force to desil choke drains in front of their homes and shops. Some of them who claim they do not discharge refuse in the drains pledged to be watchdogs to prevent further dumping. Hannah Odame was with the Clean Ghana campaign team and our reports.
One by one, they were given tools by the AMA task force to remove the rubbish which had filled their drains. Some were not happy about the task. Others were angry.
It is a daily routine, not weekly routine.
Okay, I'm coming. Now we want to cover this one.
You don't cover the drain. Do you have a permit to cover the drain?
That's why I want to know. Because
you cannot cover the drain.
We are cleaning it. Always. We are doing this way. You see now?
No, we
ourselves, we are doing our own
thing. We are bringing them. We are going inside the house. But we want this thing to start.
We clean it. We clean it. But I want you to understand me. After we clean it, we will cover it. Nobody should come and buy that.
I will not give you the go ahead now when this thing is here.
Pharmacy attendant Iya Edu was asked to clear the rubbish in the drain in front of her shop.
What's the relation between this and this?
It's not suitable for a pharmacy, especially when it's really in front of a pharmacy. It's not good.
Right now, we are locking up the shop. This thing should be removed right now with immediate effect. So please go in there, take anything that you think is valuable to you, and come out. We are locking. We'll use one of our parlor. You also use one of your parlor.
The shop was closed until she obeys the instructions. After getting help from community folk, her shop was opened.
Actually, I don't feel bad for doing it because one, it was also the right thing to do, and it will also make me or whoever handling this give much attention to whatsoever, and that also makes us put in some safety measures, either to get some woods to cover up the gutter or something to avoid whatever happened today. That was also okay.
After going through the forced exercise to get their community clean, these residents took on a responsibility.
I choose to always clear the rubbish in the drains because I know the negative effect on our health. Henceforth, anyone caught dumping refuse in the gutters will be reported to the authorities. What we request from the AMA is that they recruit officials who will monitor and catch perpetrators. Last week, we desilted the gutters, but just this week, they are choked again. The AMA didn't collect the rubbish, so I requested they come around and collect the waste whenever the gutters get cleaned.
Currently, we all have to be watchdogs and inspect the contents when someone is going to throw water into the gutter.
Once I see them coming near the drain holding covered containers, I'll ask him or her to open it so I see the contents.
Florence Kuchi is excited about their initiative and pledges her outfit's support.
We told them that they should help us to help them. They were afraid that when they get the person, maybe we will blow the whistle on them and they will know that this person has done. I told that there's not going to be anybody who will say that you have come to mention it. When you see somebody doing it, don't quarrel with the person. Just stand somewhere, let the person do whatever he is or she is doing. When the person is going, follow the person and know where the person is going to enter. Know the house and go back. Just give us the information. If you have pictorial evidence, we take it out from there and that is it. When we are able to do that 1, 2, 3, 4, people will desist from doing all these things.
And with that, the team drove off to another community. Hannah Odame for Joy News.
The minority in Parliament is demanding the immediate suspension of what they describe as clandestine hikes in electricity service charges. Ranking member on the Energy and Mines Committee, John Jinapo, observed that the price hikes have been enforced since the beginning of February this year without the knowledge of the consumers, a situation he describes as insensitive. In an interview with Joy News, the Yape Kusogu MP said there are plans to hold the sector minister and officials of the PRC before the House if they ignore calls to suspend the new charges.
You may be aware the minority has already issued a statement in relation to some price hikes with new service connection charges as it's been implemented by the distribution companies, that is ECG and NETCO. In accordance with the PURC Act, if charges or fees are going to be implemented, the PRC ought to take into account socio-economic conditions, consult consumers in particular, and other stakeholders. And when any decision on charges, fees, and its related services are adopted, same is communicated to the consumer and the general public before implementation. What we just realized is a clandestine, surreptitious, and nefarious way of adjusting these charges without recourse to due process within the electricity subsector. And so what the minority is calling on the PURC to do is to, with immediate effect, suspend these price hikes and resort to due process and ensure that the right thing is done. Failure to do so, the minority side within the Mines and Energy Committee shall use whatever legitimate parliamentary processes to ensure that the PURC is hauled before Parliament. Inasmuch as the PURC has some level of independence in the determination of fees, charges, and tariffs, the PURC cannot do that in a whimsical, capricious manner without due course to the law. And so we are calling for immediate suspension, especially the hikes that we are seeing. They are so astronomical that it defies logic. Indeed, if you look at the straight service, they are charging about 1,920. Pole extension, just pole extension, they are charging 4,400. Two-pole extension, they are charging 6,700. Some of these increments are getting to about 100%. It's unacceptable. We would not accept that. And we think that the PURC should do what is proper, what is right. To attempt to take money out of the ordinary consumer's pocket through the back door is unacceptable. In a related development, we have witnessed serious increments, hikes, and prices at the pumps. Fuel prices continue to go through the roofs on a daily basis. Indeed, within a space of 1 year, we are seeing about a 50% increment in fuel prices. Government announced that it was suspending the price stabilization recovery levy. Even in these difficult moments, government has brought back the price stabilization recovery levy. It has led to untold hardship on the ordinary consumer. Drivers are complaining, commuters are complaining, ordinary workers are complaining. This has led to an inflation rate of about 13% currently. But we maintain that that option is a lazy man's option. Why do we say that? If you read the 2022 budget statement, and I refer to paragraph 287, the benchmark revenue per barrel is part at $61. Today, crude oil is over $90. Ghana is a net exporter of crude oil. What it means is that we are making a windfall from this crude of over 50%. And so our position is simple. If you are making these huge revenues from our exports, it only makes sense that you use part of that money to cushion the ordinary consumer. This idea where, because of a mismanagement of the economy, leading to a deterioration of the currency and passing same on to consumers is unacceptable. And so the minority is calling on government to ensure that it thinks outside the box, take pragmatic measures in order to ensure that we cushion consumers. And from all intents and purposes, it does appear that based on the geopolitical system, crude oil prices may be increasing. And when crude oil prices increases, Ghana benefits. So how come that a country that's a net exporter of crude oil and benefits from crude increments tend to punish the downside, which is the consumers, with all these astronomical taxes? That is why we are raising these issues. Thank you very much. Honorable, if you want to add something.
The Ghana Police Service has expressed its regret over the shooting incident at Lamshegu that killed a 14-year-old boy. The commissioner in charge of police administration, COP Tatayonu, led a high-power delegation to commiserate with the family of the deceased.
I bring you greetings from Accra, the Inspector General of Police. He has sent us, myself, Director General Operations, Mr. Suraj, the Director General Research, Dr. Ernest Owusu. Yesterday, in the evening, the regional commander called the IGP to inform him about an incident involving one of our policemen, which came on the social media. And that was the second thing which occurred. The earlier incident was a patrol team that were chasing a DV or unregistered vehicle into the palace area. In the process, there was shooting. And people who were angered, they were rushing on the policeman. And the policeman ran into the chief's palace. Had it not be the chief's palace that this policeman ran to, and this angered youth would have lynched him. And so for that matter, the whole police administration, headed by the IGP, were so happy, and we appreciated the good work of the chief. In fact, it is through this that I got to know that it is a tradition that whatever happens, the chief's palace is like an embassy. And then when somebody runs there, nobody can come there to come and attack. And then for the chief, having good heart, even though the policeman misconducted himself, he had the good heart to receive our policeman. We, the police administration headed by the Inspector General of Police, we thank the chief and all the subjects who were here that helped to rescue the situation. And that
The fourth edition of the Onga Cook Art, a second cycle culinary contest, came to a successful end in the Western region, with champions of the maiden edition of the contest, Archbishop Potter Girls, beating 5 other schools, including the reigning regional champions, Takoradi Secondary School, with 78.5%. The Girls' School and Shamar Senior High School, who are contesting for the first time, will be representing the Western region in the national competition. The competition is an annual event organized by the Ghana Education Service in collaboration with ONGA. With a total score of 78.5% from both the theory test and the cooking competition, the winning school was presented with a total cash prize of 1,000 Ghana cedis in addition to products and souvenirs from ONGA. This wonderful report.
6 senior high schools contesting for 2 slots at the national level from the Western region for the Onga Cook Art. Which of the 2 schools among the 6 will win this contest? Is it going to be host and reigning regional champions Tadisco?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is it going to be champions of the maiden edition, Archbishop Potter Girls, Shamar Senior High School, Fichai Senior High School, Diabene Senior High School, or the Wesleyan's Methodist Senior High School? Representative of all 6 schools looked more than prepared, and it was difficult to tell which school was winning or losing. The competition began with a theory where the contestants were asked questions based on food and nutrition for 2 rounds.
The white connective tissues in meat. The white connective tissues in meat is known as A, collagen, B, elastin, C, gelatin, and D, gluten. Gluten. You have another chance. Collagen. Collagen is the right answer.
They were given a problem of the day to solve. Before the moment these contestants have been waiting for to show their cooking prowess, the Efia Kwesiminti Municipal Director of Education, Katrin Andomensa, encouraged all contestants to show great level of creativity in their cooking.
Cooking is art and creativity. Let's show a great level of creativity in the cooking. Come out with local dishes that cannot be seen in any book, but a new dish from you, the contestants. We should be innovative. Everyone qualifies to be a winner. Every school deserves the best. So may the best contestants and school emerge the best. It is my sincere wish to see Takoradi Senior High School taking the trophy from Bedu Bonsu Senior High School, our 2021 winners.
At the end of the 2 hours of cooking, the 2 judges went round to each table to make an assessment of their work.
It's coconut custard pie. We use coconut in making it.
A certain demon, clothed with a garment of grief, visited the auditorium to pierce the heart of the Tadosals with high expectation right from the beginning.
Yeah, I was a bit heartbroken because I thought we'd get a chance to the nationals, but it didn't come out that way. But any other way, it's okay. I'm really disappointed though, but it's okay. No, I had them that I'll get to the finals. Like, we hope for the best, and we knew that we'll get a chance to the finals, but it didn't come out that way. But it's okay.
The winners, Archbishop Potter Girls and the Shamar Senior High School, could not hide their emotions. They promised to bring the cup back to the Western region.
We will seek the best. We will seek the best.
And we are also willing to win, to bring the cup to Western region. That's what we can say for now.
Wearing weren't expecting, but by God's grace, we thank God we'll be able to. So we just thank God for what He has done for us, because we weren't expecting the first position. But all that we know is that in God all things are possible. They should expect the best, and we'll put in our maximum effort, and we will try and do better things than what we did now. And we know that the trophy is coming to Western region. We won't disappoint Western region. They should count on us.
Felix Appiah, program lead of Onga Cook Arts, emphasized the need to promote vocational education across the country.
We want to improve vocational education and culture because we realize that skill is the most important thing now. In fact, even the modern world, everybody is shifting from the grammar towards industrialization and then vocational skills. So we realize that in this golden age, these kids are the golden ones. They have a skill plus the grammar, because now they are two in one. They can cook, they are self-employed as we speak, and they can also go back to the classroom too. So that's what we are trying to do, blend academic with their skill, so that at least at the end of the day, we reduce the graduate unemployment that we have in the system. So that's the basic aim why we are doing what we are doing.
For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, Takoradi.
And tonight we're learning more about the interaction that took place between police investigators and the NPP Bono Region Chairman Kwame Bafo, popularly known as Abronye. He's accused of falsely claiming that the former president John Dramani Mahama was plotting to stage a coup. Well, according to investigators, he justified this claim when he was interrogated Tuesday. This contained in court documents cited by John News. Joseph Akable has details.
Abronye was arraigned on charges of publication of false news and offensive conduct. According to prosecutors, he justified his claims against the former president by saying he was informed by how John Mahama had conducted himself in the wake of the arrest of Fix the Country campaigner Oliver Baka-Vomawo. He's alleged to have said that instead of the former president condemning the comments made by Mr. Vomawo, he rather condemned the police for the arrest. Mr. Bafo-Boni pleaded not guilty to the charges and was granted bail in a sum of 100,000 cedis. The MPP's Henry Nanabuachi addressed the press after proceedings.
I've always told our supporters to remain calm. We have always told us, we use a general caution that even the national chairman, general secretary, we have always been saying that, look, all our communication should be devoid of any comment that would incite the public or that will cause any public mayhem. So yes, this is something that we said. As I said, I cannot go into the details of this particular matter. That is why I made a general statement. The matter is still pending before court, and I cannot make any statement. As I said, the accused person has also pleaded not guilty. So I may not be able to mention specific or make specific comments on this particular matter. But yes, indeed, we have had general conversation concerning how our party persons speak publicly.
Hearing continues on March 9.
To other stories now, and the Communications Ministry has identified some legal gaps in the media space that it says, if not addressed, can lead to an escalation of the abuse of electronic platforms in the country. Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Esther Osu-Ekufo, who spoke to Joy News on the sidelines of a stakeholder roundtable discussion on the use of technology for democracy organized by the Danish Embassy, expressed worry about the impunity in the media landscape and revealed stiffer measures to deal with the situation.
We all agreed that we would put in place certain measures to control the abuse of all these structures. And one of those measures, which, and I don't think at the time the law was passed in 2008, we even had this in contemplation, because we didn't know, I mean, social media did not exist. The internet was in its nascent forms. It was now beginning, more or less, and now spreading. But nobody could have foreseen how pivotal it would become to life as we know it now. So we're currently doing a legal gap analysis, looking at our laws to see how we can tighten them up to take into account the advances in technology and how we can extend the protective layer around all of us. And while we were doing this search, somebody brought our attention to the Electronic Communications Act, which was passed in 2008, Section 76(1), as I indicated, that if you're using electronic means to communicate and sending false or misleading or fraudulent information, which can endanger somebody's life, property, or something, then this provision kicks in, and you can be fined or imprisoned for up to 5 years if it is proven that indeed you used an electronic means to propagate information which had consequences and negative consequences on somebody. So it is not just enough to just throw fake news out there or make a video which maligns somebody. If that can lead to endangering somebody's life or property or reputation, you can be caught by this. And if you didn't take steps to ensure or to find out whether that information, the information you were putting out was accurate or not, that's all that it takes. And it can be scary if you think about it that way.
But Denmark ambassador to Ghana, Tom Norin, revealed that global internet has declined in a row for the past 10 years and indicated that the phenomenon of abuse of electronic space is a global challenge that needs to be addressed pragmatically.
Well, on the one hand, there's a decline. There's also a lot of more freedom in terms of the whole global communication, the whole global internet. It's a huge highway out there. The question is just how we manage the freedom that we have. And the concern is really that we are, on the one hand, seeing, and this is our concern in Denmark, but I think it must be the concern everywhere, is how we have such an enormous amount of information out there, enormous amount of communication, which of course is the expression of freedom, if you can say so. But it comes with a price. It comes with issues. It comes with questions. How do we manage it? Are we at a point now where we have gone too far? Can we control it? Can we regulate it? Do we need, we have had discussions today at this event about how we need to self-regulate maybe in some ways, how private sector needs to contribute to regulating. We don't have answers. What we are saying is that we have great opportunities, a great potential for using technology, modern technology, digitalization, the process we're on, for democracy, for our future and human rights, but we also have to see that it can work against us.
So we know the social media space is one of the tools you can use to promote effective governance, democratic governance, but it is also the propensity of using social media to cause mayhem is high. How worried are you? What is your study on the trend in Ghana? You think we are on the right track?
Well, I think the worry is not here. It's not here alone. This is a global worry that we've seen it, I think, over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't think I'm wrong if I'm saying that the discussion has been very, very clear in the United States during the past.
This is Johnny Sprang with me, and that's been. We're taking a break on Worry 10. We have more stories, sport and business for you.
It's time for business. I'm Charles.
No, but that
Boisterous start of the year on the Forex market as world events including the Russia-Ukrainian crisis and increase in global crude oil prices plummet major currencies. The founder of the winning Forex Seeker, Anno Gifty, tells Joy Business that much orientation is ongoing with future Forex traders in universities and across the country for sound financial advice. She spoke at a Forex charity ball in Accra.
It hasn't been that stable because of the long holidays that we had and then stuff like that. But it's picking up. Most of the times it's from February and then to March that the market picks up. But the cryptocurrency guys are really enjoying the market. It's either it's up or it's down. We are doing over 1,000 free classes across the regions. This year we are doing three regions and 3 universities, including a group of national service personnel. Yes. So basically, our idea is to teach and create value and then give back to the society.
Meanwhile, Mayor of Belmopan City Council of Belize, Sharon Palacio, who was a special guest at the Forex Charity Ball, called for more partnerships between the Belmopan City and the Accra Metropolitan Assembly on issues relating to financial security.
My trip to Ghana has been out of curiosity. I heard that there's a female mayor was put in place, and it took 100+ years before a woman took up that space. For me, I am the first female mayor for the city of Belmopan. My city is a young city, and I'm the first. And because I heard about her as the first, I was very curious, so curiosity has me here. And when it comes to women and leadership, I have a message to females in general. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of curiosity and a lot of effort on a female's part, because it has been an area that has been dominated by males. So for a woman to get involved, my advice would be the female girl has to be educated as much as possible. And most times leadership is inculcated from the home, whereby your mother, your family, your grandmother comes with that type of teaching, and then it becomes embedded in you. When you speak about Africa in Belize, it is not known. I don't know how many of you know where Belize is at, but Belize is located between Mexico and Guatemala, and we're the one English-speaking country. We're separated by a bridge and another bridge, one from Mexico, one from Guatemala.
Well, away from that, the National Insurance Commission says it is working assiduously on the expansion of insurance coverage for both the public and the private sector. According to the Deputy Commissioner Michael Kofi Andor, there are efforts to get people understand the relevance of insurance. We have more in this report.
The Deputy State Insurance Commissioner, Michael Kofi Andor, was optimistic about the growth of insurance in the country. However, he described the journey to get more informal sector workers on various insurance packages as tiring. But the prospects of the inclusive insurance package to get more informal sector workers has been positive.
So now we have actually worked on it and adapted it to suit people in the informal sector. And that is what has even raised the coverage from was around 5% around 2010 to the 30 that we now have. So we've made some progress, but there's a lot more work to be done. Most Ghanaians operate in the informal sector. There are just a few of us who work in the formal sector. Most Ghanaians operate in the informal. So one thing we have done is to develop insurance. They used to call it micro, they now call it inclusive insurance. It's just to reach out to those in the informal sector so that they can also benefit from it.
Dean of the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Justice Bawole, entreated the public to take advantage of various insurance packages to save them from unforeseen circumstances.
Someone who runs a shuttle business, on a daily basis, you are in the process of making money. If you unfortunately get an accident, if you do not have a way to come back, that's definitely the end of you. So for those of us in business school, we are not only interested in how people create wealth, but we also are interested in how that wealth can be protected. And one way is what we just did together with our alumni association, to instead of just celebrating love through Valentine, we are celebrating how to protect what we love.
The public lecture was under the theme, Insurance, an Integral Part of Household Wealth Management in Ghana.
That'll be all for business, but in the meantime, take a look at international business news making the rounds. I'm Charles Aite. The bulletin continues.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the second part of the sports segment here on the Joy News Prime with me, Oreku Ampofo. Ghana Premier League leaders, Kumasi Asante Kotoko, have announced that they raised close to 51,000 Ghana cedis from their virtual seat challenge for the Ghana Premier League Week 17 tie against Accra Lions. Kotoko CEO Nana Yamponta is happy the initiative is yielding results.
It's difficult if you look at the current situation where government says only 25% can occupy the stadium, which is 10,000 for Baba Yara. That's 25% of 40,000. You would assume that, I mean, that's easy for Kotoko to fill. And then again, we go there and it's 4,000 and it's 5,000 and you ask, where are the supporters? We bring in the virtual seat challenge, hoping that every match we can have 30,000 people cover the remaining 30,000 seats. And sometimes you get 2,000 cedis at the end of it. People come to understand that, okay, if we say we are filling Baba Yara Stadium, only 40,000 can get in there. But there are millions who cannot get in there but can still contribute. And we have a dedicated 50,000, 100,000 people who say, I'm in Europe, I'm in America, I'm in Tamale, I cannot get to Kumasi, but I want to contribute that 5 Ghana cedi, I want to contribute that 10 Ghana cedis. Definitely we'll get the numbers. But as I said, it's easier said than done. It takes education, it takes orientation, and we need to get the supporters to trust us again. That is why my management is being very transparent. We publish, like Chairman used to do, we publish our gate proceeds, we publish the virtual seat challenge revenues, etc., to let people know that this is what we are receiving, this is what is going into. Because until people trust you, they are not going to put even a CD in.
Stay on the subject of the Ghana Premier League, and the Ghana Football Association has confirmed that the second round of the 2021-2022 Ghana Premier League season has been scheduled to get underway on Friday, February 25th, 2022. The first round of games is set to come to an end on Sunday, February 20th at the Accra Sports Stadium when arch rivals Heart of Oak and Asante Kotoko face off in a matchday 7 outstanding game. However, 5 days after the first round has officially ended, the second half of the season will begin with a game in hand for Asante Kotoko, who currently lie top off the table, taking 36 points from 16 games so far with 12 points drop. Hearts, on the other hand, are 12 points behind their fierce rivals ahead of the crunch fixture this weekend. Well, before we go, just some updates on the ongoing UEFA Champions League games where Inter Milan are holding Liverpool to a goalless draw, first half done. And then in the other game, a bit of a surprise as Red Bull Salzburg lead Bayern Munich by 1-0.
And that's our show for tonight. Many thanks for your company here on Joy News Prime. We have more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is BM Express. Please stay and enjoy the rest of our program.